Per usual, learning on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. How we doing in altcoin land? Spoiler alert, not great, but hold on. Good news. Rates are starting to come down globally. That's what we need. We need rates down, liquidity up. That's how alts do best. Does that mean it's best for anything else? IRL in the meat space, is inflation going to go to infinity or just stay high and destroy savers perpetually? Probably. But if you are wanting alts number go up, that's why you're watching this video. I got some good news for you because Canada has cut rates. Tiff Macklem, what a name, from the BOC governor. As someone who grew up close to Canada and Michigan, I'm an honorary Canadian. At least that's what I consider myself. In any event, Bank of Canada cutting rates. ECB, the European Central Bank, said to probably likely be cutting rates soon-ish. So we're moving from a global hiking cycle to a global cutting cycle, hopefully avoiding a global recession on the way. The US is still pretty steadfast in the higher for longer path. We are not quite there on the inflation expectations. Talk about this every Monday, so I'm not going to dive deeply into it, but our Fed has a meeting next week where they may or may not give some guidance on September or whatever as far as rates. They're probably not going to cut the day after the election, right? So there's just not a lot of room here for them to do anything. You know, maybe we get a rate cut in December, a pity cut, if you will. But if the data is bad enough, i.e. if the unemployment data on Friday is bad enough, that will push the probabilities towards cuts. Whether or not we actually get cuts, I don't know. But that's what you want to see if you're an altcoiner. Another thing you want to see if you're an altcoiner, or really a Bitcoiner, let's be honest, is number go up in liquidity. This isn't like, oh, we want to get rich, we want liquidity to go up. It's, we're pretty sure liquidity has to go up because that's how the fiat system works, and we're tracking it. And we're trying to avoid being obliterated on the saving side of things, and we're ready, right? That's my positioning. This isn't like, oh, insurance for doomsday. This isn't an inevitability, and this is how I'd rather be positioned from a savings perspective. So anyway, global M2 hitting close to new all-time highs there on the look into Bitcoin data. Any continuous higher high, anything, we probably will never see anything like 2020 in our lifetimes again, but anything remotely close to 2017, 2016, we'll take any of it. We're getting there as far as expectations. If you just TA the global liquidity, you get a ascending triangle. So that should continue. And for alts, it's also important to remember they do best after Bitcoin's halving. We are now officially many weeks out after Bitcoin's halving. So alts should start to do better eventually. So what's the next thing on the list? It's rates down, liquidity up. We're not quite there yet, but we are post-halving. So BTC should continue to outperform most things. I'm not talking about Obama or Trump or whatever else. That's a whole another animal altogether. I'm talking about most of the high cap L1s that don't have an ETF, right? We saw 900 million in inflows yesterday into the ETFs. Typically what we see is this lead lag relationship between Bitcoin and alts. So as Bitcoin starts to take off, eventually some of that BTC liquidity rotates into alts, but we're still not quite there yet. You know, it's like I'm the dad telling the kids, sorry, you can't go outside yet. You can't have fun. I don't care what you do individually. I'm just saying, this is how I'm thinking. This is what I'm doing. I'm certainly not heavily denominated in alts. I know a lot of people that are already. I think it's a bit early for that. Back to the recession stuff, we also have to avoid the angry charts that look like this. So this is SPX ETF SPY versus JOLTS, which are job openings. Historically, this has held a pretty close correlation, and that kind of broke down after the AI miracle, if you will. People see charts like this and they say, okay, these are alligator jaws. They're going to close eventually. Either JOLTS spikes, job openings spike, which I think is unlikely based on the AI miracle, or the SPY comes down, or this chart is just permanently broken, right? There are lots of different types of charts like this where we're sort of breaking relationships we've held for decades. Just interesting to think about. Just a little food for thought. I don't think we're headed for a recession, but if you are altcoin denominated? Is your portfolio recession proof? Is a great question to think about. I'm guessing no. I had a question about the DXY last week relative to alts. Again, we benefit from this because we are denominated in USD. So if USD goes down, if the value of the dollar goes down on a relative basis, we should see bullish continuations, bullish reversals, whatever on everything crypto land. We've seen it in 2016 and 2020 prior to halvings. The way this is setting up, some people are steadfast and bullish here. I am not in that camp. It looks like we are headed for a weakening dollar. Something to consider in the near term, if everyone else in this basket of currencies is cutting before we do, rates-wise, does that still help push dollar lower, or does it mean the dollar is sort of the last holdout and stays stronger for longer on the DXY basket? I don't know. Is the market pricing in forward expectations about where we think the economy's headed or whatever else? That's beyond me. I'm just looking at the number. Number go down, good. Crypto number go up, good. In regards to stablecoin liquidity, USDC flat week over week here, kind of still down month over month, down since post SVB, down since Binance USD conversion. So it hasn't really picked up. If anything, this is a great barometer for craziness in DeFi. We just aren't seeing it. We're just not. And there's tons of demand for dollars around the world, and you're seeing that via Tether, Tron. Look at the Tron transaction volume and look at the Tether on Tron transaction volume. It's outrageous. Globally, overseas, if you're not connected or have heard about these conversations with people, all they want is Tron Tether. That's all they care about. It's the cheapest way to send Tron. It's the cheapest way to get dollars. And that's what we're seeing here, in my opinion. This isn't DeFi demand or anything else like that. Back to the global liquidity conversation in the green here. This data on TradingView is slightly different than the looking at Bitcoin data. I'm guessing it's a different equation. This is a massive equation with a bunch of different conversions, but it's close. It's getting there. US liquidity, however, has slowly ticked up week by week here. Slowly, but we're still in a broad range. So my expectation is US liquidity up, DXY down, global liquidity up, and we all have a grand old party time. Here's dominance versus US liquidity. Bitcoin dominance versus US liquidity. Again, inversely correlated. Typically, as you see liquidity rise, we see dominance fall. Why? Because altcoins historically have done better. Are the ETFs going to change that this time? They might. I am not excited about rotating out of BTC. I could care less. I'm happy, I'm cozy, I'm comfy, I sleep like a baby at night. Whereas if I was denominated in Sol or something else down the list or a bunch of stuff, I'd be thinking about regulatory concerns. I'd be thinking about, okay, what if we don't actually cut in the US anytime soon? What if we're headed for a recession? If Bitcoin's down 20%, alts are going to be down 50 to 80%. We've seen that over and over again. So to me, we're not exactly in the free and clear on the altcoin side just yet. And if you look at the alt BTC chart, which is basically just inverted dominance stripping out the stablecoins, we are still bearish. It's unquestionably below the 3-day cloud. Why the 3-day cloud? Well, if you go on a lower time frame, you're going to get a bunch of false signals. You even arguably get a little bit of a false signal in 2022. But since mid-2022, we've been below the cloud. If we are able to pop above the cloud on the 3-day, then I get more optimistic and opportunistic regarding altcoins broadly. But here, it just doesn't make sense. You could say it's ranging, it's post-halving. Great. Well, last time it took almost a year post-halving for alts to take off. That's why I like Q4 this year into Q1, something like that. That makes a lot more sense to me than right now. People will point to things like Total 2 or Total 3 or others and say, look, this is bullish. Sure, right? But that's not the measuring stick here. The measuring stick is Bitcoin. Just like for most of TradFi, the measuring stick is the S&P. If you can't beat the S&P, what's the point? If you can't beat the S&P consistently, what's the point? And if you can't beat Bitcoin consistently, what's the point? Why bother? There's more risk, more volatility as you go down the curve. But yes, this looks very bullish. This looks like it should lead to bullish continuation. This looks like a mini cup and handle, a massive cup and handle, inverted head and shoulders, bullish TK cross, price above cloud. Everything is incredibly bullish here. So don't get me wrong. This could end up going very much in the altcoiners' favor, as some do think with the banana zone and all this other crap that people are talking about. Totally possible. But I think it's just a little bit early to pull the trigger on that right now. Before I go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. And if we look on the weekly Bitcoin chart here, I don't see anything bearish. You can say, well, we're a little overextended on the TK lines here. It's more momentumless, but I do not see any bearishness here whatsoever. We are consolidating at all-time highs for over 100 days. That to me is not bearish at all. And there are many alts on the USD chart that probably look close to this. Sol looks fine on the weekly cloud. ETH looks fine on the weekly cloud. Massive cup and handle, right? These should all break out and do well. There's zero doubt in my mind. The trouble I have is where people say, oh, I think this is going to outperform, so I'm going to allocate into that. And then they just keep going down the market cap list, right? They just keep going down, 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 down. They're like, oh, you know, what about XYZ? What about XYZ? Go for it, but you're not pricing in risk and volatility or drawdown or historical performance or institutional flows, right? I'm not going to argue with you on what you should be denominated in. That's up to you. You know, would I be 100% denominated in Pepe? Probably not, but this cycle, meme coins have done quite well. Meme coins remain at the top of this list in volume. That's where most of the attention is. That's where most of the attention has been day over day, week over week. It's Bitcoin, Sol, ETH, and then it's meme coins, and then maybe some AI coins. Nothing else has really been able to strongly crack into top 10 volume. So looking at Bitcoin again here on the daily cloud, we look great. We continue to look great. There's nothing bearish about this at all. I can't find anything bearish. I have no bearish arguments. I'm happy people are trying to short this. Good for them. We have a bullish TK cross, price above cloud. The cloud is telling you expect prices to go up, expect bullish continuation. It's not telling you the speed, the vim and the vigor, the rate of change at which that'll happen. It's just saying up is expected. And again, if we put this in with a list of everything else, there's some alts year to date that are down significantly. Here's the pack, right? Here's the pack. That's what's happened. That's the future at this point. So much like people are rotating out of tech, maybe and into IWM or low caps, I can see where people might be getting that idea here. Sure, you can try. I don't think it's going to work out well for you, but a lot of this stuff just has not mattered yet, arguably because rates are still high, liquidity is still low on a relative basis. I like trading strength. I like trading things that number go up. So that's where I like to live. ETH, cup and handle, easy, looks fine, bullish continuation. The head and shoulders low time frame scare has not played out. The best thing for ETH is actually delaying the ETFs. There's nothing more bullish than possibility. You've got the ETH unlocked to deal with. That's going to be a problem. Hopefully just for ETH, hopefully not for the entire market, but that will matter. And we probably won't see inflows to match the outflows in the beginning. So get ready for that. Get prepared for that. That's going to happen. ETH BTC continues to look bearish, range bound, sideways. It's bounced quite a bit a couple times, just has not been able to consistently put in a higher high and hold that high. This is the 2-day cloud. The 400-day moving average tells the same story. This just isn't the time. The pitchfork tells you the same thing. The moment this gets above the 2-day cloud and holds, and above the 400-day moving average and holds, I will shout it from the mountaintops. I will be so excited for everybody, but we're not there yet. It's reminiscent of previous cycles, alt BTC charts such as EOS, such as Ripple. Eventually there comes a time when it does break out. So I don't doubt that this is going to be wrong. It's just, it needs more time. It needs more time to potentially have that move. And I got a bunch of death threats on Twitter suggesting this would be a multi-month inverted head and shoulders, left shoulder head, a right shoulder yet to be formed. That's definitely in the cards. And I would argue best case scenario. Best case scenario is every trade setup is a complete obvious slam dunk, slow moving, bullish setup like we're seeing on BTC USD. As a trader, trading things that go straight up and straight down is very difficult. But being able to position into something that's revealing a bias is much easier to do. So we're not quite there yet on ETH BTC. Sol also looks great, looks fine, right? Is this going to outcompete ETH this cycle? Some people think so. I have no idea. I don't really care. But man, wouldn't it be ironic? The ETF-less Sol outperforming ETH. Based on the cloud, this looks great. You should expect higher highs here. You should expect bullish continuation. As long as it can hold a bullish DK cross with price above cloud, that's what should happen. So nobody should be surprised if Sol's at 200 in the next couple weeks. Sol ETH remains a potential ascending triangle. I'm not going to count this out just yet. Definitely on the brink of breaking down. But as I said last week, one of the more interesting charts to watch here in the next couple months. Sol is clearly where all the attention is for the meme coins, the absolute degeneracy casino stuff, right? That's where it is because it's cheapest to do it. It's fast. It's all sort of contained in the ecosystem. People are certainly using ETH, but they're using L2s more so than ETH directly based on what I'm seeing with the on-chain data. So until that changes or flips, this is definitely a potential technical setup to think about. BNB USD, finally, after weeks. Now, I don't know anybody else who's talking about this. I'm on Twitter literally all day long. I saw nobody talking about BNB. I saw like 3 people talking about it yesterday. It's probably an East-West thing. I don't think a lot of US traders trade on Binance anymore. But I've been talking about this thing probably longer than anybody, saying, look, this looks good, this looks good. It finally broke out. I talked about how, well, I'm a little worried it might not break out as it gets closer to the end of this triangle. In this case, it didn't matter. So this continues to look good, looks great, nice breakout here. People automatically always want to like move the stop loss up. Stop loss as the pattern is forming is basically the diagonal on the bottom on the base there. And then as it breaks out, people want to move the stop loss up to 626 in this case, right to the breakout level. I don't care. I'm in no hurry. I'm in no rush. If you're on leverage, you're probably closing up here. If you're in spot like me, you're just doing nothing because it looks fine. It looks fine. Just let it do its thing. It's going to take time to maybe get towards 800 or something. But it literally just broke. It spent 4 months consolidating, and you ought to, not you, the listener, but you, the trader, wants to close this out the day after it breaks out. Like, relax, right? Like, let's see how this plays out. Let's see it establish some lows, see if there's any buyers to come in to pick up the pieces in the 700s against BTC. It looks okay. Not quite in the weekly cloud. Potentially a pretty gnarly looking inverted head and shoulders here. Bullish TK cross coming up. There's an edge to edge move here. Flat Kumo. There are good things happening on this chart that have me in the trade for a reason. If an alt doesn't look like this or similar to this, it's just like, why, right? You're eating lower lows. You're eating this knife falling through your hand and into your heart as you're holding it against Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense. This has at least pulled up from the lows year to date and done decently well against Bitcoin. Oh, look, an NVIDIA chart, a new all-time high. It overtook Apple today. In market cap, it's getting more and more scary. It's getting scarier as this thing gets higher and just sucks all of the volume, all of the attention, all of the dollars, kind of takes all the air out of the room. We need to finagle a way here for NVIDIA to just calm down without completely collapsing. It hit the inverted head and shoulders targets, but it's starting to look like a runaway freight train. It looks very strong because that's where all the attention is. And because it's such a market leader, if this rolls over, it's going to take the market with it, at least try to. I'm not bearish on it. It's just, you got to sort of pay attention. What's NVIDIA doing today? Is it down 5% or up 5%? Near pulled up quite a bit after rolling over. I'm still in this trade personally. I think it looks fine. It looks okay. I'm in no rush to close any of this. As long as it can keep making higher lows, should be fine over time. Again, against Bitcoin, it's in the weekly cloud. Bullish TK cross. It has a weekly cloud to push through yet. There's a trade here. There's a inverted head and shoulders here. Does it look amazing? Is it screaming at you? No. But at least it's not making lower lows. It's not making all-time lows like some of these alts against Bitcoin that I'm not even going to bother discussing. Render is another AI coin. Continues to look good. Bullish TK cross, price above cloud. What else do you want? It's got an Adam and Eve here that it's working on lower time frames. It's got a macro inverted head and shoulders, much like NVIDIA did before it broke out. So there are some alts that look good. Most of them look like junk, but some of them still have a trade in them yet in the near term. Doge is more in the junk category. just ranging. It's actually up more year to date than Bitcoin, ETH, or Sol. But as it looks here, it's just kind of a nothing burger ranging. I have zero doubts in my mind. In this cycle, Doge will be at a higher price than it is today. And if you're holding for that price, God bless you. It's coming up. It's just going to take a while. SHIB broke out a little bit, pulled back. This probably has one of the best measured move fib targets left in it. It's basically a 100% move, a 2x plus, right? I'm not super confident that it shoots to that price, but it would definitely be something on the watch list if the meme stuff continues to do well. Pepe has held the highs. There's still no trade here for me. I like the trade coming out of the recovery up here. This just isn't it for me. I don't know what it would take, but it looks fine. It looks okay. There's still a lot of trading volume, obviously. WIF kind of failing here. Looks okay. Floki, bonk, kind of pulled back. Here's bonk. Here's Floki. And there's plenty of other stuff that just hasn't really done much. It's sort of just drifting aimlessly. We've got these 6 that I keep highlighting, much like BNB. One day, let me tell you, dear trader, one day these are going to pull up. It's a mix of metaverse junk and DPIN and L1. I don't know, right? I'm sure there's a bunch of other charts that look like this. But if you're going for some Hail Mary, if you want to barbell a portfolio with, Bitcoin and then stuff that could 10x or whatever, right? Like, this is the stuff I would look for, where you'd want to see rates down, liquidity up. But generally, there's just not much out there. Most stuff just looks boring, sideways, not moving, not really going anywhere. Still very much middling, unexciting, waiting for a catalyst. That's all I got for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.